All right, so you participated in the 2015 World University Games in Korea, right? Is that correct? Where you
Yes.
swam the 200 fly?
Mhm.
All right, so what do you remember most about your World University Games experience?
Ooh, honestly, so this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but on the last night, a bunch of us took this crazy taxi trip to go to Korean McDonald's. There was like 8 of us in this taxi, and none of us spoke Korean. We were just like yelling McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's until he drove us. He took us to McDonald's. No one there spoke English, so we'd point to everything that we wanted. We weren't allowed to eat it back inside the village, so we just sit on the ground. Eating our McDonald's while people stared at us, but we still talk about it because it's funny.
That sounds so fun.
It was really good too. I was surprised, but yeah, that honestly, that and like the village in general, but like Korean McDonald's did stick with me.
So, what was it like getting to represent the U.S. on a global stage like the World University Games?
Terrifying. I'm gonna be honest. I just because like it's you don't really know this until you go, but in other countries it's such a big deal and like they kind of downplay it. They're like, oh, it's not that big a deal, but like it is such a big deal. It's definitely nerve-wracking and scary, but it's also really cool. Because they announce your name and they're like for the US, and it's like, oh my god, I'm for the US. And like you have your American flag caps, and it is really cool to be like, yes, I'm from Team USA.
I bet. Do you believe that competing on the global stage like the World University Games made you a better competitor overall?
Oh, for sure. It definitely made me grow up a lot just because like once you're there and you've got the US flag on, you're like, oh my God, this is not about me. And I guess it's something you can take forward with you.
So you obviously went to UNC twice, technically,
Did.
graduated from law school and undergraduate. Uh, so you've been around the Triangle area. We got all these universities, not just including the big, three. You got all the smaller ones. So how do you feel? Like, what are your thoughts on UNC and the other universities around here being hosts for the World University Games?
I actually think it's such a great idea just because they have the space in the dorms and the campuses to host everyone. I feel not that the village wasn't super nice, but it did feel a little thrown together versus like Duke, UNC State, and literally any of them could host the athletes. And it's not like there's nothing to do. Like if you go walk around, there's tons of stuff to see. It's really beautiful. But like I definitely think that the three universities right there, especially if you're busing from the facilities like we were, like that's perfect.
So, from what you've seen of the World University Games in South Korea, do you think that the Triangle area would is a good area to really host the games?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like New York, but that's honestly better because I actually had to go outside the village a couple times because my phone broke and we had to go to some random tech place. It was terrifying. One of the coaches, Ray Lewis from Indiana, took me and we were in another taxi where he didn't speak English, we didn't speak Korean. It was terrifying. Um, but like it, I think it's nice in that if you want to venture outside the village, Triangle is like a relatively safe area, but there's still things to do. So it's not like you're like going out in the wild of like LA or New York, like you're in somewhere. But like if you want to like go hiking or like go to a brewery, I don't really know what each country lets people do, but you have the option to do those things.
So more of what they want to do more than what they're actually allowed to do, I
Yeah.
think. So, in your perspective, what kind of positive impact should we expect if the Triangle were selected to host the 2027 World University Games?
I definitely think a lot of people will come watch. Definitely tourism. Because I mean, I was surprised at how many spectators there were. But I mean, definitely like employment opportunities because there's so many people there it takes to run everything because it's a mini Olympics. And it definitely, I didn't even realize until honestly right now, like now that I'm an adult, like you'd have bus drivers, you'd have officials, you'd have people to run the village. They had little people who took our bags for us before every meal so you don't have to bring it to the dining hall. And definitely just like the scale of like getting food and supplies for however many athletes, I think that's definitely a help to the economy.
For sure. So, what do you believe makes the best athlete experience at a large event like the World University Games?
Ooh, so I think this is going to sound weird at first, but definitely the living area, just because like the parts I remember the most are talking to like my friends from Team USA and meeting people from the other countries. Like in the dining hall, like I told one of the coaches I was going to talk to someone from a country that started with every letter of the alphabet. So I was walking up to random people to figure out where they were from so I could check names off my list. And like, I definitely think having a good common area for everyone to interact and meet is just like the most important part, because like that's what you remember. Like I remember that like I met some random girl from Canada who lived in the same neighborhood as my friend from college. Like, you know, that I walked up to a guy who was from Jamaica and I asked him if he knew where America was. It turned out he went to LSU. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life to this day. But it's stuff like that, you know, just like having somewhere where everyone can mingle and meet.
Yeah, I get that. So would you personally like to see the Triangle as a host for the games?
Oh yeah, for sure. Honestly, if I could go, if work let me, I would go.
So do you have any advice for the North Carolina Big Committee that might help them land the games?
I think really just showing that you have the capacity to host that many people. I'm sorry, I'm worried my dog's gonna bark in one place, just because I remember they did have some issues with when we first got there. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm gonna pick her up, otherwise she's gonna bark.
All good.
Hold you, tiny demon. Oh. So I do remember when we got there, there was some issues with like getting everyone a mattress, like getting everyone sheets. And I think, and like it didn't end up being a big issue. Like everyone eventually took care of them, but like you got one towel per person, no stealing your towels, no losing your towels. It was a little weird, I'm not gonna lie, but like whatever, I just didn't lose my towel. So I think just like showing that you have the capacity to host everyone without hiccups is really like the biggest thing, just because it's so many athletes, and you know we eat, you know, and getting, but I think that's the most important part, and having the facilities. But like you can make this, we have the 3 colleges, and like you can build anything that we don't already have.
So now that you've been out of swimming for a few years and you've represented the US, is there any advice you give a young swimmer or a young athlete who, you know, wants to aspire to eventually possibly represent the US at an event like the World University Games?
Oh, wow, that's so deep. Huh. I would say probably like don't, oh gosh, no, that's a horrible thing to say. Oh God. I feel like I'm the wrong person to ask. I was gonna say like don't shoot for it, don't expect it, because then that makes it better when you actually get to do it, because I missed it my freshman year by 1 place. And I mean it didn't, like at that point, like I was a baby. It was right before I started college, so I don't even know what I was missing. And if I did, I would have been really pissed because it's incredible. But I think just like listening to your coaches and going, definitely, I mean this one goes without saying, but like stop eating that, go to like the big meets because you want to get ranked for it. But just like compete in race as much as you can, because especially when you get there, like it's about racing and practicing. But I mean, you know, just let it happen, and if it does, it does, and it's great. I'm sorry, I don't have the best advice on that.
You're all good.
I never expected to get to go, even though some people will tell you I was probably stupid for thinking that, but like it's just such a great thing to be able to do. It's better if you're not expecting it.
I understand that. Well, thank you for the interview, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.